and welcome to UC Today. My name is Kieran, and for this session, I am delighted to be joined by James Slaney, co-founder and COO at Dubber. Today, we are discussing how productized AI unlocks the full value of customer conversations. James, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Kieran. It's great to be here.
Well, first things first, can you please tell us a bit about yourself and the work you do with Dubber?
Sure. So as you said, I'm officially the COO of Dubber and one of the co-founders in the business. I've been involved since we started, which is over a decade now. Broadly involved with working with our service provider partners, and as we move into this new phase of how we're utilising AI and taking that to the market and sort of enabling partners to deliver it to market in a seamless way and in a quick way.
Perfect. And naturally, like AI is the word of 2023, the theme of 2023. At face value, and it's almost become, it has consumed the culture at this stage, consumed the discourse. But at face value, AI can be quite abstract. What are the challenges of creating a productized version of AI?
Yeah, it's a great question, because I think we all understand that AI is such a broad thing. I might just announce, I suppose, that yesterday we're really proud that we won an award for Best AI Product in Telecom at the CogX Awards in the UK. It's great recognition for what we're building and how we're focused on the telecom industry. So we're really proud of that. But going back to your question, it is the reason why I think we won that award is because AI is so broad. If you just say that generally, you think about what we look at is overlaying AI and what is spoken about and what's been discussed in conversations like we're doing now. We look for ways to use AI to improve the outcome of that conversation or improve the benefit for the business. Now, we work with partners such as service providers. So some people, when they think AI, they're thinking about transcribing the content and then trying to create some sort of rules-based engine or word spotting and then really solve some sort of business problem. It's quite broad and very hard for most people to understand. What we're looking at is how can we use trained AI outcomes that are out of the box, that can be available immediately upon switching on the Dubber service. Now, the way we work is we work in partnership with the largest service providers in the world, across the whole world. We've connected their network to our platform, and we run a global platform. So that's really the power of what we're thinking about is how can we leverage the access to this content. So that could be a mobile network, a UC network, any communications network. And once we're on that network, they can switch on straight away. And with the AI, the end customer can get immediate benefits out of that through a productized outcome.
Perfect. And then I think, well, firstly, congratulations on the award. That's fantastic news. And obviously, it's nicely timed for positioning yourself and Dubber to be able to properly provide insights into this topic. And I guess, how does this out-of-the-box AI, this productized version, impact the sellability of Moments specifically? Because Dubber obviously launched Moments earlier this year, which has naturally been a massive success. How does the out-of-the-box nature impact the sellability of that solution?
Yeah, thanks. So good point. I didn't actually mention the way we're packaging it is we call it Moments. So we're productizing the outcome, and those outcomes are focusing on this word moment. It's a moment in the conversation. Then we always build that on the idea that we're benefiting the end customer because ultimately they need to see value from the product. But we work closely, as I said, with service providers, which we call partners. Now, they've got large sales teams that are really selling complex products as they are. And for us to release our Moments product, which is these trained productized outcomes, it needs to be easily understood, sold without risk. So it's not risk to the salesperson. It makes sense to the end customer quite quickly and is really impactful. So one of the key moments that we've released so far is so looking at the voice of the customer and what that means in the voice of the customer, such things as complaints. Can we automatically detect complaints that are spoken about in conversations, categorize them in a conversation, whether it's a phone call or a video like we're doing, and then providing that to the end customer. Now, that's quite easy to explain that, and that's what we're trying to do. So the outcome is quite simple, but massively impactful for the end customer. So we're looking at ways that our partners and their sales teams can deliver that as a standard offering with everything they discuss in regards to communications with their customers.
Perfect. And I think you mentioned on the customer engagement side of things. I want to return to that a bit later, but I think it's interesting you say the importance of it being easy to use, and I think it's naturally with the winning the award, the how critical accessibility and an intuitive design is for fitting AI capabilities into established systems that a lot of these service providers and partners and customers already have in place. How important is that accessibility and intuitive design?
Yeah, it's a we always want to provide the best experience for the end customer, and the idea that when I say out of the box, it needs to be for a user easy to understand very quickly, without much learning for that for that experience. So what we've done is we've enhanced our applications. So what the user logs into and in partnership with our providers. So they log in very quickly. Can they get an insight across the whole business? So if we look at the example I said, which is the complaints. So if an end customer can log in, they immediately see how all complaints are grouped across the whole business and then based on topic. So if we looked at retail, they could look at that straight away and say, all right, we've had, let's say, 49% of our calls are complaints and 15% relate to service quality or service delivery. And they can easily understand that. And then we give them an insight that says that compares that against another correlating period, so they can see how they're tracking versus other times. And what we're also working on benchmarking. So if they're in a retail space, they can also think about, are we tracking against the industry in general as well? So we're doing a lot so they can easily get that access to that content. We also worked with ways that we can, depending on the type of insight or moment that we're working with the customer, they can get a text message for individual type of insights, or if needed, we have the productized API as well, where the API enables all access to the content and can integrate any system that they may be using at the moment.
Perfect. And I think that leads on to that's the customer engagement side of things. And I think it's really interesting reading about Dubber and the conversations I had with your Dubber colleagues in the past about how dramatically this can help with customer engagement. So can you please explore in a bit more detail what exactly these AI capabilities do to enable this improvement in customer engagement, please?
So most of the business. So we actually, if we go back to the example about retail, you're looking at businesses that have. We've got a few at the moment that have lots of locations, and they're wanting to understand, what's been discussed in their stores with the customer, and they don't really get much visibility to that. Now, most of these locations, as much as they're part of a large organisation, it's very hard for the organisation in a whole to get an insight in those locations. But the power here is, because we work at the network level, we can capture the content really easily across a distributed workforce or a retail chain, and centralize that in one location very quickly. So in the cases that we're working with, the provider who provides all their communications has switched on all the services. We're capturing that at the network level, overlaying that with Dubber moments, and providing in regards to, let's say, complaints, and instantly I can see across their whole business what the interaction with their customer is like. So that experience is now looking and getting really insights they've never been able to get before. And it's really only possible because the way Dubber is deployed with the partner, and then the access to that content enables us to provide AI really that's never been accessible before.
That's perfect. And I think you touched on Dubber Moment with this complaints as the first one. It's almost the pioneer for Dubber's Moments offering. What do you see? And you've mentioned some examples there, but I would just like to explore that a bit in more detail. What do Dubber see as being the core use cases for a moment such as complaints?
Yeah, the reason I'm probably focusing on, I mentioned a couple of times, is retail. We're seeing that's really, it's hit the mark in retail, but also, that broadly we think complaints and that, voice of customer. So the voice of customer is a theme. At the moment, I'm saying the complaint is a moment. We're also about to add advocacy in that theme as well. So, you're getting the complaint, but you're also getting the advocacy part of the conversation. So you can see both sides of the coin there. And that really, we think about, is really applicable to pretty much every business wants to know what's the communication with their customer like. So it's very broader application there. And that's where, so there's some moments that, or some what we're building, we see that as the outcome, which makes it, again, really go back to the easy for our partners to obviously sell that to their customers without fear as well, because the person who might be selling to SMB may only have limited time to sell their solution. So this is quite easy there. But then it gets very powerful when you get to large enterprise as well. Thinking about, a business with 50,000 people or 100,000 people, again, very applicable. As we go deeper into other types of moments, they might be more vertical based because they're not as easy to sell and more specific based on industry.
Perfect. And then I think just touching on one last question on moments, because it's a really exciting solution, and Dubber has also announced it's almost like a strut, because it's in such a groove at the moment, that it's going to launch a moment a month. So what's next on the horizon for the portfolio as it continues to expand?
Yeah, great question. Now we have announced that we're going to be releasing a moment a month, and we have already released the complaints moment in that theme of voice of customer. We are also releasing advocacy as well at the moment. So I keep sort of a dual word. What's coming next is we've announced that we've released for wellness of an employee or wellness of staff, abuse. And now abuse is a terrible word, but very applicable for many businesses because they want to understand how people are speaking to their customers. We know the world's changed, and we know through COVID, people are working remotely, distributed workforces, dealing with customers. So that this is really applicable, I think, broadly for end businesses. In large businesses as well, you've got ESG requirements, compliance requirements that businesses are to say that's a priority for them to understand that. And this sort of falls in line with that as well. So we're going to expand that theme of wellness for the employee. So abuse is the first one there. Sales performance is also coming, and that's an expanding features moment set. We're really excited about that one. It's something very powerful, and I think it can be really impactful for many businesses as well. I've got to come back to the reason why we're really confident about releasing a moment a month is because we have this ability to switch on any service on the provider's network really quickly, whether that's, I say UC networks, whether that's WebEx calling, Microsoft Teams, a UC product supplied by a service provider, and a mobile network, and any other type of communications product. So we're really confident about the ability. The idea is that, as we get demand and we see scale, we'll focus and we'll prioritize moments as we go through the year.
Brilliant. And I was wondering if I could pick your brain and use your expertise in the area for a couple of questions before we end on the broader context of conversational AI. How do you see conversational AI transforming specific industries such as healthcare, finance, etc.?
Yeah, it's now I'll be honest. I've learnt most of everything I understand about AI is I've learned through the business and learnt through Dubber. But because we've been working this now solely for, let's say, 5 years, 6 years in the business, and we've got a great research team in the business that always is cutting edge and at that sort of bleeding edge of where we're going forward. I think it's interesting, the word conversational intelligence or conversational AI. A lot of people misunderstand that to be more around chatbots and maybe a contact center experience, and that is definitely the case. What we're trying to anchor towards is conversation intelligence, because we're looking at the broader instance of conversations, and that's, I suppose, how we see that impacting businesses is that they can actually now really think about how they can interact with their customer broadly, and it's going to change what we all expect from our communications. I think, going through which the examples were already discussed, I think what's possible and what we see as possible is that historically communications has pretty much stayed the same. We make a phone call, we end the phone call, we write down some notes, or we make notes separately. We're starting to see ways that there's, note-taking applications and the like. But in reality, we've got the ability to overlay AI on every conversation. We expect to see that we enhance any type of phone call we make. We're just doing a trial at the moment with call summarization on across a mobile network with a mobile provider in the world, in one part of the world. We're in discussion with others. Now we can do call summarization. We can look for an action in a mobile call. there's a lot you could do with what we're talking about and how that impacts businesses generally. Now, how that impacts, let's say, from a tradesman on a mobile phone right up to health is very interesting, and probably endless. But I think what we like about it is that the impact is available for the smallest of business right up to the largest of enterprises, and that's where we see we're excited about that it can be delivered to really anyone on a communications device.
Perfect, and I think that ties quite nicely into my final question before I let you go. What do you see as the future for conversational AI? What do you think the future holds 5-10 years down the line? And I know it's a very broad question, and and AI is transforming so quickly before our very eyes. But I'm very curious to get maybe your prediction or your opinion on where we're going.
Yeah, so we've looked at the market and we looked at where we're at to where everyone's at today, and there's some really strong applications in vertical industries that are really focusing on what we've been talking about and how they benefit a vertical. What we believe is that the technology is moving forward so fast that what we're experiencing today, it's going to leap forward very quickly. So what we're aiming at is that because we've got access to the content at scale, and we're not hindered by limiting ourselves to specific communications methods, that we're really looking at for the source of the calls, is that by doing that, we can get a huge data set for the end customer. And as the technology improves, there's more we can do to really enhance and get a visualization of their whole business. So now we're talking about complaints, but in the not far distant future, you could see that we could provide an insight and explain to a business owner or manager a summarization of what the whole business is talking about in the future, about instead of just sort of looking at an insight, we're actually explaining that what their business is, why complaints coming into their business, how that's trending, and give some predictive nature to what those outcomes could be in the future, because we've got this large data set. Now, what we do is we're always trying to look for, we don't want to create all the AI ourselves. So we are using best of breed as well. We have been able to integrate with some. So we see ourselves trying to be always up with the latest and greatest, but you're using our access to content to making sure, as we've always discussed, it's always easy to sell, easy to get access to it for the end customer, and then there's not this massive delay in the delivery or deployment of the services. It's really quite easy to get it.
Perfect. That's brilliant. Well, thanks so much for your time today, James. It's been a really good session.
Yep. Mate, it's a great conversation, Kieran, and thanks for your time also.
Brilliant. And if you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share on social media, and we'll see you next time. I've been Kieran Devlin of UC Today. Thanks for watching.